Hello audience, today I've come to you with nothing more than poetry. I know a number of students have a problem with poetry, and whenever you're telling them to love poetry, they wonder what actually you're talking about. I often tell students poems are just comparable to the songs we listen to every day. Now I'll advise you students, you should be more focused to listening to English songs, especially if you have a focus towards poetry in English. I'm not saying that Kiswahili is bad, but when you're listening to Kiswahili songs and then come to interpret them in English, if you have a challenge in poetry, it may be quite a problem to translate the aspects we see in Kiswahili poems to English. Now, what do we have in poetry and how do you have a proper analysis? Now, I believe it is just simple. Any student must follow the following steps that I'm going to share with you. The first thing that you must do when you're analyzing a poem, once you get a poem, read it. Not once, not twice, not thrice, at least 4 times. Now, after you've read that, focus on the form. How is this poem? Yeah, structurally, how is it? For example, a poem might have stanzas. We have those which do not have. We have poems which have rhyme, and that rhyme is predictable, which we call regular rhyme, and you will just see at the end of the line it appears. You also have to look at form in terms of maybe the structure or composition. We have poems which take the image of what actually it's talking about. Some of you have read the poem Teardrop. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, after you've looked at form, the next step is to actually internalize the devices. No matter whether the question asks you or not, that is the first thing to do. So go through your poem and establish any simile. For example, have they used a comparative aspect of us? This is like this. This is as this. Yeah. If I remember one poem about I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud by William Wordsworth, I normally see something like I wandered lonely as a cloud. We have Pius Olehe's poem on the storm. It has a lot of similes, so establish those parts and underline them. After you've done that, see whether we have metaphors where we have the one-to-one aspect of comparison. Like the poem Ibadan, it has a description of Ibadan and it compares it with the proclaim. Yeah. Look at whether we have personification. Yeah, like when you look at the letter I wanted to write, yeah, the contract worker, you will see a lot of personification there, like the wind would read and interpret the message and then give to the leopards, then the leopards would send to the birds, and the birds would let my letter end in my lover's hand. Now, watch if we have aspects like we have this contrast that comes through words, whether it's oxymoron or any other form. Check whether we have repetition. See if we have apostrophe and any other style that the teacher has taught you in poetry. Then go on and check the tone. What kind of tone is being used in communication? Now, a number of students have a problem with tone in poetry, but I'll tell you that it's one thing that is so easy. Now, you just have to understand the words that are used in describing tone, and then you will find it easy. Now, remember, tone is the quality of voice used in a poem, and it relates closely to the mood and attitude. So, when you read that poem, try to see, is the poet condemning something? Is the poet pessimistic, optimistic, yeah, ironical, sarcastic, yeah? What quality of voice are they using? And at the same time, check the mood. Is it a sad mood, a joyous mood, confused mood, tensed mood, anxious mood? Then check the attitude. What exactly is the persona in the poem trying to show? What is their that is the overall feeling they have towards what's happening. Are they disappointed? Do they show some sort of disappointment? Yeah. Are they in despair? Yeah. Are they loving? Are they, you know, also encouraged, and so forth. So once you establish the three aspects, then you can move on to meaning. Now meaning comes after you've understood the rest, because all that bring out what actually this person wanted to communicate. Meaning should not actually press you. Try to see if you understand themes when you are reading other journals, then you can pick from that and see whether we have something like environmental, maybe degradation. Do we have corruption? Do we have poor leadership? Male chauvinism? You can also expand by looking from stanza to stanza to see maybe an aspect whereby somebody was expecting something to happen, then they kept waiting, and within their aspect of waiting, there are things they did. Later on, they possibly maybe were disillusioned. They gave up because they were not getting what they wanted. So just go word by word. Do not rush, because poetry carries about 20 marks in our KCSE paper 2. It also comes in paper 1 with aspects of verbal and non-verbal aspects, and it is very important that you as a student master the art to analyzing poetry. Now, the other thing that I'll tell you is explore themes and use poems, because through a figurative language, you find a given theme. Like for those of you who have read this poem about I lost my heart in the coast, you understand that it's not actually talking about losing a heart, but it's about love that goes sour. When you look at the mongoose lives in the moor tree, it's about the aspect of a man who loses the wives to other men. Yeah, so the message actually is hidden in the themes, in the language, in the sound and rhythmic patterns, though rhythm and sound focuses more on metrical pattern, and it helps you just to enjoy the poem, to have memorability and all that. Now contextualize poems so that you understand where it is happening, what is happening, who is doing it, when and why, so that as you discover the context of the poem and you've seen the structure and all that, you just read the poem the first time. You read it just to appreciate it. Now read the second time so that you are giving the rhythmic pattern in it. And I normally tell students, try to be dramatic even in that silent reading. If it is a place you are reading from home, you can even record how you read so that you see whether the breaks were okay, the flow of the lines and the stress was right. Then you map the rhythms, the rhyme scheme, yeah, so that you establish whether it's regular or irregular. And then scan through the poem to establish meter, meaning, structure, and more. Now break down the poem into components. And I told you, like, line breaks can tell you something. Even the line itself, one line and the other can tell you something. Now determine the form of the poem. Is it a couplet, limerick, sonnet? You know, sonnets have particular communications, limericks the same, couplet, and so many other poems. Now study the language. What kind of language is being used? Because if you read a poem that has been written by a Black American, the communication is different from a Kenyan and then from the whites. Then study the content. The content is important because it carries the message. It is where now we are looking for the uncovering of the theme. Determine who the narrator or the person is, who is speaking. Is it an animal? Is it a man who is disillusioned? Is it a man who is doubting love, like when you see, should I take the oath of love with this woman I know little about, or should I not? Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just generally giving you information, and I'm looking forward to show you a poem. It may be just a small, I'll capture something small at the end of this video, so that as you finish my video, don't stop before you look at the poem I'll have shown you. Thank you for watching, and I really like you people. I love you, and keep subscribing, share with friends, encourage them to focus on this channel because it is educative, edutainment for us, focuses on teaching. Also subscribe to my other channels. We have Prissy, whereby I do dances and general life. And I have another channel just focusing on, building talents with the kids whom I relate to, my own family, and all that. Keep encouraging me, and you can even educate me on what to do, because life is about education all the time. Bye bye for now. Love you.